My breath, my life, my heart. I will give you all I have. Tears of joy, nothing can tear us apart. I will give you all I have.
Hey.
My breath, my life, my heart.
So,
I will give you
this light is bright. Let me fix that. Okay. This is WNDC. WNDC stands for We in the Caribbean, You Ain't, which practically has been a mixtape that I've done for years when I lived in Atlanta. And now it's WNDC in DC because this is my home. I'm now a newly made Washingtonian for that reason. I come to you here as just another pirate radio station of sorts and the whole figuring of our minds and whatnot. So, yeah, it's kind of like that. What I really want to get together and talk about right now, hopefully, where I can be heard, is the mere fact that here we are in this new state of blackness. I was born in the early 60s to a family that was very adamantly involved into the civil rights movement. I had no idea that these people were who they were, but I've grown to respect the mere fact that it existed. In that time frame, I've watched as many generations have come and many times have come, and we have actually overcome in some little small ways to be here. And yet many people are now starting to revive this whole revolution that should have been fixed long time ago. As a matter of fact, it should have been fixed at the point of Reconstruction. If it had not been for the multimedia involvement of the birth of a nation. And in that time frame, lots of things changed, lots of things happened. So let me just read this off because this was a comment that I read to someone. And it was like, yeah, we've overcome by default as a whole. This digital world has blessed us with newer generations of people suffering from the worst miseducation in the history of mankind. See, coming from a state of eating and sleeping, the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, the Black is Beautiful movement, as we evolved from Negro. And therein lies this instinct that we now are debating. What some read about is just the mere fact that most people have always, seen and known some of us old heads, but never really noticed that we're not just old. Some of us are wise. Some of us have been there and have seen that and done that. And the difference between all of that is the difference between apathy and between empathy. Now, let me speak on the difference between empathy and apathy, because in the current state that we are, there's many of us who feel the need to express ourselves by way of a sense of apathy. I know how I feel, so that's where I'm at with where I'm at. And so for that reason, the difference between apathy and empathy is kind of like faith. Not necessarily like faith in what you believe in, but faith in whom you are involved with may have some form of value. And for that reason, ignorance is not an insult. it's an honest observation. You may just be devoid of just the right information, and that's where we've been struggling and actually befriending and unfriending many of friends over this whole need to post the newest revelations into what we felt to be false news or news. And therefore, being stupid is a sin. When you're dealing with someone and you're coming at them with at least the amount of respect that they should respect you for you not being an idiot, and you too should be able to respect them and such. And for that reason, we tend to treat our friends or so-called friends in a manner where we truly believe that if there is a chance that we can possibly enlighten or entertain you, we would hope that you wouldn't take offense enough to go, well, I don't want any more enlightenment or entertainment or anything from you because you on my nerves, because I don't want to believe that, expound my man or see it from your side, and that's powered by a fear of being forced to humble yourself, in a manner where if there's something that they have to teach you, you should want to be interested in learning it. And yet valuing people on a today's basis doesn't allow for that kind of instinct to exist. And therein lies some of our problem. With this black issue, we are now dealing with people who are at odds with the mere fact that when people of slave blood, Americans, say black, and then others whom around the country and the world who are of color, believe that they should be included in that same black. It's not that we're insulting you over that. It's that this country was built on a kind of definition that one slave blood drop is what has almost masonically disqualified many people of color for being allowed to be respected for whom and how they are. And for that reason, we've been, all kind of N-words to the point that we found ourselves at that early point in our blackness that we decided that we no longer wanted to be included into just people of color or Negroes. A lot of people feel that it's all black, and it's never been all black. Prior to this new evolution of information and education that we all exist with today, we had to pick and choose who was or who not. Take, for instance, Marcus Garvey was black until in his last days he decided that he wanted to start teaching more of the Pan-African elitism of people from other islands and countries and whatnot. And that has been a stickler for a lot of Americanized people of color. Now we call those people black folks. Now we've got black folks, we got Negroes, we've got people of color, and we've got African Americans. We've got things that people don't want to understand. There are more non-people of color out there that are totally confused as to why people of color are having such a debate of sorts as to who's black and who's not. Take, for instance, in Marcus's case, everything was fine and we believed in all of that until he went to that left part and left a lot of slave blood, unidentified people of color whom stepped back off of that, and the end was him being deported. His campaign, because he was beefing with all of these other people of color, historic people who were all believing the W.E.B. Du Boises and the Carter G's and all of that. And I think that's where a lot of this situation that we are not comfortable with is at, because we lack the knowledge enough to be able to, if nothing else, try to explain to people why this great melting pot of what we call America and people of color, what we call black, is a all-encompassing and yet inclusive to the mere fact that non-discriminative, non-script, non-identified by race or by color or country or protocol or class or lodge or membership or social grace or island or whatever else does not allow anyone else to disqualify people of color, nondescript slave people of color. All they know is that when we became free, we became free. Prior to that, people were allowed almost a diplomatic immunity allowance to claim being non-black or non-Negro, just so that you can better identify the fact that you did not come from the slave blood thing. So don't treat us like that. That's how a lot of things like the Prince Hall story actually came up with the Masonic people. And some people will probably try to argue with that, but that's fine. I'm cool with that. But not even Prince Hall should have been a Prince Hall. There should have been no secondary identification for what is in the know. And therefore lies where we are today. Because at a point of the invention of Black Power, we were at the height of taking our power. Black was beautiful. We were all black. And as long as you were down with us, we loved you too. You could be as black and beautiful until it got to the point where people were like, well, I don't want to just be black with y'all. What about us brown people? What about us red people? What about us island people? What about us Latin people? What about this, that, and the other? And that's what put us into the last situation that we were for the last 40, 50 years, where the more that, just like the power of Babylon, the more that we decided to want to be identified and, from a unique or distinct manner, we lost our power of sorts. And so, we don't seem to understand just by an inclusion that the NAACP wasn't invented by black folks for black folks. It was invented by, people who wanted to identify these more distinct people from other places, islands, cultures, free people, things of that, not from the more non-educated and miseducated people of color from slavery. And so here we were at a point where, LBJ and his group of people and them Dixiecrats really did a big number, to the point where when, even though they say it's not true, when he said, when I get done with these people, they'll be voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And here we are in this new state in 2020 or 2020, and we can't even educate, people politically in the mere fact that that Republican party was ours from the get-go. And up until Reconstruction and whatnot, and slowly layered after, it slowly dodged, and we all jumped ship to back people like Kennedy and whatnot. And that's where we got really sold a bill of beans, by this LBJ, and, we got this voting rights thing that really wasn't, and we got this civil rights thing that really wasn't. And, we even got, the only thing that really good came out of the late 60s was the legalization of interracial marriages. And even that's still uncomfortable for a lot of people. And so a lot of where we're at today is due to the mere fact that we're incapable of understanding the difference between blackness, Americanized blackness, and the black that we all are as a color, a race, a culture of people all around the world. Yes, we all, migrated from Africa, but then so did everyone else. So just claiming that is becoming more of a conflict for people who need a little bit more to claim, to rely, to identify at, because, it's still not working. They're still not getting it. And most of that is due to the mere fact that no matter how or miseducated our people of color are, these white folks are worse. They really, and I never could forget how hard it's been for me to tell many black people suffering in these ghettos and slums how that line of poverty, that image of poverty that they see, that they feel, that they scream, for, is nothing close to white poverty. I'm telling you some good stuff. You hit the Appalachians and whatnot. It's Africa, only white. So don't think that these white folks are just worried about y'all. They don't even we've got rednecks, we've got hillbillies, we've got blue bloods, we've got white trash. And out of all of that, you can't figure it out, because as long as they were light skinned, they could just dress apart and be not what they could be identified socially and culturally. And I think that's another issue that gave us the ability to be black. And even with all of that, there's still this underseated understanding or non-understanding that culturally and classically, there are people out here that really honestly are like, Chris Rock said it best when he said, white folks can't stand niggas, but guess what? Negroes can't stand niggas neither. And yet, when blacks, the epiphany of that, the worst image of what blacks could be envisioned as, when people who claim that they are blackity black too, until it comes the time for them to claim some of these niggas too. And then we have an issue because, you're not that black. You're not that, oh, well, I'm a person of color, or I'm this, that, and the other. You can call yourself anything you want. But all of this talk about unity and all of this other stuff, why it can't happen is because we have a whole lot of people riding the fence of what they are not really capable or ready to fully and grasp and do that. In order for them to do that, just like we scream Black Lives Matter to white folks, and even Dolly Parton said, well, hell, you can't think that they're just white folks' crusty asses means more than black folks. I mean, come on, and not to really piss anybody off, but technically speaking, for any racist American that sits back and tries to claim any form of Americanized culture, their music, their art, anything else of that nature, you cannot do it without us. And therein lies the problem, because the us that I'm speaking about are black folks, the ones that came here and lost all identity to everywhere else but here. And for that reason, we've made the world kind of admire the culture and our struggle, the artistic form in our pain. And for that, we are that level of black that sometimes may be uncomfortable for other people of color to relate to when they want to be black too, but they're not feeling us enough for us to allow them to be that black too. Kind of like when you grew up with a little white friend in the hood with y'all that was so black, he grew up that you could either tell him he would shock himself every time he looked in the mirror because he was better black than some black folks. And yet you had to at times shake him and go, yo, bro, you got to watch yourself. I mean, you cool with us, but we go out. There's some people who don't know that you come from there. It's like white Africans. It's like, it's like Europeans who have the same kind of lust and faith and desire and claim to the same Africanized history that many of us claim as well. It's hard to understand that when we're still living in this third world knowledge environment. That's what America is, and yet per capita, we have more educated, supposedly educated people, to a certain level than the rest of the world allows everyone to have. And for that reason, we've really got to wake up, because where we're at right now, we think, oh, because you went to the black college, you claimed a black Greek organization. Even those things were stipulated in a very unfair way. It's better now, but initially when these things were created, there was a lot of stipulations that wouldn't allow many of us to be a part of that, because they never believed that there would be an allowance for so many of us black folks to have the access and the understanding and freedom and respect to be treated like they expected when they migrated into this country and environment. And therefore, It's not that we're insulting someone when we say, well, you ain't black enough or you ain't this, that, and the other. Yes, we do have little fun, little studies and whatnot. Yeah, you call yourself black all you want to, but we want to see how you make your macaroni and cheese. We want to see how you make your soul food. We want to see if you can dance. We want to see if you can get hustled or not. You got gang. Can you play some spades? These things right here are things that, while it may not seem very important to a lot of other people who really want to believe that they are the same quality and caliber of black as many of these Negroes in America with slave blood, but most people are not aware that even this country was stipulated, the whole Constitution, everything from, even behind the doors with no windows, was stipulated with that one drop of slave blood was a disqualifying factor that even still to this day, there's more of a relation between Camille, Camille, whatever her name is, Harris, and Obama, due to the mere fact that neither one of them have an ounce, a drop of slave blood. And there's what has been allowing more of them to be allowed to take the Oval, even though the Oval is not one of the three principles of our government that run, and so, yeah, it's going to be difficult because as black folks have been, and their joy and their pain and their art and their music and their protests, everyone on this planet of color has all rooted for and wished to be a part of too. And that's great. We are all black like that. But until we can understand that it's not an insult when we try to say, you may not be as black as we see black to be, it's a teachable moment. If at one point or another you're more capable of having more empathy, enough to go, okay, knowledge me, homie. And the old dictionaries they used to have down there, that ignorance is just the devoid of knowledge. And yet it's the one word that causes an instinct of insult more than stupidity. And yet stupidity is a sin. With all that being said, I just want to let that go where it's at. And I just want to let y'all have what I've got. And I want to see if I haven't wasted a whole lot of time just trying to do what I've just done. Are you good?